Hi, host Eric here, host Talking to Famous People, and we're going to do another video on process and results because Susie just asked a very good question that draws attention to a contradiction. Can you just ask that again, please, or say that again?
I don't remember your exact examples, but both of them were fucking up a little less than last time. Isn't that a result-oriented way of looking at it?
Okay, well, the the way I position them being different is as follows: that for a results-oriented person, it's a series of independent bad or goods. And if the goods outweigh the bads, then the net is considered good. The number. Then if the goods like outnumber and also they have weight, individual weight themselves, but as opposed to the process oriented type, which sees data from a bigger vantage point and sees it as though on an up and down thing. So it tries to uh, it doesn't really care. Like for example, one of the big differences is seen in this. I don't really care what what's happening now with this thing, provided it seems healthy and doing stuff and interesting. I figure something will come of it eventually, right? That's being process oriented and saying, well, if I were seeing, you know, if I were seeing things differently than I'm seeing things, I'd be concerned. But I feel as though there's uh, a genuine health to the community that persists outside of my presence. It's been that way for the last week or so because I've been kind of out of the loop. And that's really encouraging. And that's like a process thing. It's not really a milestone. I don't really have any sort of criterion that's really being met. It's just a general feeling I have about how things are going based on not a whole hell of a lot, really. Like extrapolated out from a small amount of data because I'm an extroverted intuitor. So the fact that there's that INTP video up there,
But
that's
but
encouraging.
how is that not an outcome orientation?
Because you're pointing out to the fact that I can't discuss the process orientation or make arguments in favor of a process orientation
No,
without
I'm just
pointing
trying
to
to understand
specific.
it.
Well, no, I'm trying to explain it. You're right. I can't describe the process oriented approach without positioning it in terms of benchmarks, except to say that the benchmarks are vague. There's no real definition to them, and it's just a general sense that things are getting better versus worse. Uh, there's That's what it means to be process oriented, and to be whether or not I'm satisfied or feel the need to take action or something is going to depend on whether I think it's stagnating as a process, if it's moving faster as a process. How do I measure with those things? Well, I've got to measure with snapshots. Like if I were to explain it, I have to measure it with snapshots, but I don't really measure it with snapshots, except to just note that this reality is different than it was before, and suggests bodes well or bodes poorly.
That makes more sense to me
I
as far
mean,
as the process orientation.
the thing is, I think it makes more sense to an intuitive, or at least to an extroverted intuitive. I'm not sure about introverted, but
No, but yeah, that's the thing. It sounds like it would be true for all intuitives in some way.
well, maybe that's where the division is. Like I said at the beginning of the last video, I don't know what types are what. I don't know if it's a JP thing, which is what I was hypothesizing, but maybe you're right. Maybe it's an NS thing.
Or
So
a
I
mix.
I don't know the answer to that one.
And even like I would say there's a scale for all the J's as and all the P's. Like some J's are going to be really result, and then it goes all the way down to just making the cut for results
It's quite
oriented.
possible. That's quite possible as well. If we were to look at the physical metaphysical chart, it might align with that in some way. I don't know. I'd have to look at it. Um, but what I do think is that there is a real distinction, that it's difficult to describe the process orientation without making note of progress through events. But I think process orientation is more likely to, for example, note that this one big thing that happened outweighs these bunch of small things that happened. And the results oriented is less likely to view it that way. That's one example of how you might distinguish between them using the same currency, namely of outcomes.
Yeah, and process orientation, it can also be somehow related to the ability to draw from it. Because maybe sensors wouldn't be able to do that in the same way.
It would seem that process orientation might generalize out or interconnect more with other things than does a results orientation, but that may be a bias of a process-oriented individual not really understanding how results-oriented mindset works when it works well. So it's hard for me to say.
Okay.
Anybody else want to comment on this? I think it's interesting. I don't claim to have a very fully worked out idea here, except to note that Socionics predicted that thing. It did happen. In the example of, the process results example comes out in a couple of spots between Kimberly and me. God damn it, Eric, don't do that. Anyway, I'll say, well, we got all this stuff done today, so we should feel good. And she'll say, but we didn't get this done. I'll say, I know, but look how much we got done. It's just like we can't focus on comparing to what we have to do. We have to focus on comparing to nothing. Compared to nothing, we did great today.
By that metric, I'm definitely process oriented.
Yeah, being for process oriented people. Fuck results, man. That's TE shit. That's why we gotta get a good woman who can help us get results without making us mad. It's important. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.